Welcome, everyone, to the Downingtown Middle School course selection night. This is Mrs. Brown, one of our assistant principals and the head of master scheduling. I'm Dr. Indeglio, your building principal, and also Mr. Jenkins is one of the principals here at Downingtown Middle School as well. Now, Ms. Brown, as we get started, we should let everyone know that the people who should be watching this video would be parents of incoming 7th graders.
Yep.
And our 7th graders moving on to 8th grade now. And you're attending Downingtown Middle School on the west side of the district. But you know what? If you're a Lineville Middle School person and you want to watch too,
it applies.
Have at it. It's a great video for you. So next year is the 2023-2024 school year, and we've already sort of introduced our administrative team. We also are going to let you know who our school counselors are. And at Downingtown Middle School, Miss Brown, we do school counselors by last names of students.
It's a little different coming from Marsh Creek.
So if your last name starts with A through H-A-L, Mr. Shirley will be your counselor. If your last name begins with H-A-M through P-A-G, Mrs. Lipkin will be your counselor. And if your last name starts with P-A-H through the letter Z, Miss Whitmer would be your counselor. Miss Brown, if I'm a parent and I want to read all about the amazing classes that are offered in the Downingtown Area School District, particularly in 7th grade and 8th grade, where can I find a document to show me all of that?
That's a great question. And this is a tool you can use all the time. And our website does look a little different now. So if you follow these simple steps, we have 4 steps to get to the program of study. You will end up with, in print, it would be a booklet, but it's a PDF, and it'll tell you have all the course descriptions of all the courses, which includes cores and encores at the middle level.
How do you find it, Ms. Brown? Like this slide shows some numbers and things, but walk me through it. Pretend I'm a neophyte with the internet.
So the very first page, you're going to go to the Downingtown Middle School website. And I know ours says Lineville right now because we did some sharing of some slides, but same thing. The first page looks the same for both schools. You want to click on that hamburger. That's what we call it. That takes you to the menu, and you'll get an option to go to resources at that point. That's number 2. And then our program of study is actually located in the backpack. And then once you get into the backpack, you're looking for these icons on the page, and you're looking for the program of study. Once you click that, it actually opens up and it gives you program of study options for all the schools, secondary schools in the district. Of course, you'd be picking Downingtown Middle School, and then all the information can be found there.
Ah, okay. So it's the backpack from the menu, resources, etc. Well, that sounds
4
pretty
clicks.
easy.
Actually, 5 clicks to decide the school. Yep.
Wow. Thank you. Awesome. All right. So in both 7th grade and 8th grade, there are essentially 5 core classes that students are going to take. And for the most part, these are, we call them core because they're the foundation, the fundamental building blocks of the main educational piece at the middle level.
And they meet every day.
Ooh, they meet every day as well. That's actually even more important.
Yep.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the 7th grade classes that are the cores, and then Ms. Brown will talk about the 8th grade classes that are the cores. So for 7th grade, mathematics is your first core subject, and we have a variety of math offerings that we're going to look at on the next slide and talk about a little bit more. But in general, for 7th graders, it's grade 7 math, a combo course, grade 7, 8 math, and Algebra 1 are the main courses that you'll see for mathematics. In English, there are 2 periods of English language arts. We call that ELA for short. There's English literature and there's English writing. So there's a writing course and a literature course to cover all the different aspects of ELA. We have a level 1 and a level 2 of that course. That's based on teacher recommendations, but if you feel super strongly about the recommendation made in either direction, feel free to contact your particular counselor, and we can always talk about what levels look like there. In addition, history for 7th grade covers the formation of the colonies in the new United States to the becoming an actual country. And in science, life science and physics are the main subjects that are covered through the science course. So those 5 core classes, one more time, in 7th grade are math, ELA lit, ELA writing, history, and science.
And in 8th grade, it's similar, except you'll see that there's only one period of English, but I'll start at the top of the list. So the math offerings for 8th grade math are grade 8 math, algebra 1, or algebra 2. English, you please note in the 7th grade column, you see the English literature and English writing. When students move to 8th grade, there's only one period of English. And again, those classes get a recommendation for level 1 or level 2. And in history, we pick up where, in 8th grade, we pick up where 7th grade left off. So we start with the new country all the way into the roaring 20s. And then in science, split by semester, they start with chemistry and then split up into biology for the second part. The additional period that is lost from that English period is assumed to the world language period. So students have a choice of Spanish, French, or German. And again, this is a core class. So unlike 7th grade, when they picked a world language expeditions class that met 2 times, this is a level 1 language that meets every day.
So, ¿dónde está la world language course? 8th grade.
Yes. Was that where? When?
Down to where is?
Yeah.
Where is?
Or la escuela. Escuela? Escuelita?
Well,
little school?
This is why you can pick Spanish or German or French for one of your languages.
Clearly, I didn't take Spanish.
So 5 core in 7th, 5 core in 8th. And then we're going to move on and talk a little bit more about mathematics. So mathematics is one of the areas where the most questions usually start to come in the middle level. You get a lot of transition from 5th grade to the Marsh Creek 6th grade center. Then 1 year later, you're transitioning again to 7th grade. So when you're in 6th grade, you are either in the Math 6 course, or you might be in the combo course, which is called Math 6 and 7. And that is basically covering the 6th grade curriculum and a portion of the 7th grade curriculum. Or you might be in Algebra 1 in 6th grade. So as you're looking at this slide shows the progressions all the way through high school that are available to you, depending on the math progression that exists. Now, what this slide doesn't show is that once you reach the high school level, there are a few different options in regards to additional courses you could take, or a hybrid option for maybe taking 1 or 2 courses. And as you get closer to the high school, you'll see that there are more educational opportunities overall through a variety of subject areas. And also students who decide to go to STEM have a different math progression once you reach there as well. But as you can see through this progression, that all of these progressions offer the opportunity to reach higher levels of math if you are interested, or if your student is interested in pursuing that through the high school world there. So just talking about our grades 6, 7, and 8 alone, to run through each progression. If you're in 6th grade math and you move to 7th grade and take 7th grade math, you would then take the Math 8 course in 8th grade and have your Algebra 1 in grade 9. If you're in the 6 to 7 combo course for math in 6th grade, you would finish the 7th grade course in 7th grade and then also do the 8th grade course in 7th grade, and you'd move on to Algebra 1 in 8th grade, and that would open up the different options for the high school there. Final progression, if you were in Algebra 1 in 6th grade, you might take Geometry in 7th, Algebra 2 in 8th, and then move on to some of the higher level maths at that point as well. So the important thing here, and what a lot of people look at, Ms. Brown, tends to be where do you hit Algebra 1? Mm-hmm. And there's an opportunity to hit Algebra 1 either in 8th grade or 9th grade, depending on the progression that you're on there. A lot of people ask, does taking Algebra 1 impact admission into STEM? And the answer is no, it is not a prerequisite in that regard. Did I miss anything? Anything you'd add there about math?
No, I think you covered everything. That the STEM question is very important. It comes up very frequently, but that's good information to share with everybody.
What is a mathematic person's favorite tool? I guess that would be a mathematician. What's a mathematician's favorite tool, Ms. Brown?
I don't know, Dr. Indeglio.
Multipliers.
All right, next slide.
All right, Encore classes. So, Ms. Brown, would you like to talk a little bit about the required Encore classes that all students have to take in 7th grade, and then which ones they have to take in 8th grade?
Sure. So the required Encore classes, and Encore classes meet 2 times per cycle, are physical education or gym, health, and then for rising 7th graders, it's the world language expeditions class. And those are required. The phys ed and the health are required for both rising seventh graders and rising eighth graders. All the other Encore slots, students have choice. And then we'll talk about those in the future here on a future slide. And then there is a little bit of choice in terms of the world language expeditions piece. Students do get to pick French, German, or Spanish expeditions, which in turn then turns into a level 1 language in eighth grade.
And for our parents who are coming from 6th to 7th, core classes, like Ms. Brown said, meet every day.
Mm-hmm.
Encore classes, of which there are 2 separate blocks, they meet once every 3 days. So we have a 6-day cycle. And then in one encore block, for example, if it happened to be that your encore met period 2, you would have a different encore on A day, B day, and C day. And then you would fit 3 classes into that one period.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the fun part. Students get a little bit of choice within our encores once they've taken their core or the encores that they actually have to take, the required encores. So since there are 2 periods of encores, that means there are 6 total choices for encore classes. In 7th grade, like Ms. Brown said, 3 of those encores are mandatory, which means students have a chance to try to pick from 3 other ones that remain. So in 7th grade, some of those choices fall in the art department, studio art, digital art, and 3D art. In tech ed, there's science of technology and energy in the environment. Those are very hands-on classes. FCS is family and consumer science. That's split into 2 different parts. There is the culinary piece that takes place in our kitchens, and then there's also the functional life skills piece, which is sewing and learning a lot of other things that are super important to be able to do in everyday life there. Music, we have general music, which is basically a little bit of everything. You learn some garage band, playing some different instruments, a lot of fun there. We have chorus, orchestra, and band, and students who have been participating in those activities already have a heads up on what's happening with those. And then each of those also has a performance piece that you had to try out for. In chorus, we call that vocal ensemble. In band, I believe that is... I'm going to get the names confused right now. I'm having a blank. There's specific names for the different types of instruments in that realm there. And for orchestra, it's a performance-based orchestra as well. And again, all of the students who have been taking music already kind of have an idea what those different feeds and patterns look like in regards to the tryout process as well. Big question, 6 to 7 is usually this is because we recommend you take 1 course from each of these areas over the course of your 2 years. And it's, well, I usually double up on music. Can I still do that? And we are very flexible at the middle level, and we do find ways to make the doubling work within the other encore areas. So that way you get a chance to be exposed to everything. Ms. Brown, what does 8th grade look like for encores?
So 8th grade looks very similar with the same art offerings, naturally a little bit different curriculums. Tech ed is also different with automation and robotics for 8th graders and design and modeling, both again hands-on. FCS is very similar, just different skills learned at the different grade level, and then the same music offerings that are offered at 7th grade.
The one piece that's kind of nice in 8th grade is that since you've already taken the world language expeditions and then you're taking a first level world language, for the most part, instead of only having 3 encore choices, you get 4 encore choices. The mandatory is simply being health and PE. Now, at Downingtown Middle School and all across the Downingtown Area School District, we have a variety of support classes that are available as well. The scheduling of these classes is usually done by either a variety of data points that we crunch over time. Some of that is benchmark testing. Some of it we use standardized testing through state testing and things like that, teacher recommendations, and all of the schools have an MTSS process where a group of educators meet together to review a bunch of different student data, social, emotional, academic, behavioral, all together to determine where some needs are held. Some of the courses that are available for all students include our reading comprehension class, which may replace a core course in either 7th or 8th grade. We offer a math extensions class, and that takes place either 2 times a cycle, which would be the equivalent of 1 encore class, or 4 times per cycle, which would take the place of 2 encore classes. The idea behind math extensions is that when we've noticed maybe some skill gaps that may exist This course is intended to help fill those gaps, which is going to help overall in the regular grade level math course, even though they're not necessarily working on the exact same content that's being worked on in the math course there. The final course is an academic expeditions class, which meets 2 times per cycle. And we like to call that our cognitive command class. This is a place where students learn to be organized, how to prioritize properly, and specific study skill strategies, again, in the area potentially of social, emotional, academic, and behavioral learning, depending on what's needed. Now, we send invitations to parents for these courses, and when those invitations come out, it's very specific. So if you qualify for one of those courses, you will know, and you'll see an invitation for those. Usually this takes place later in the year, and oftentimes the pieces of this occur during the summer as well.
Could there be a case where a student, a current sixth grader, is maybe enrolled in one of those classes?
It could absolutely be that.
Okay.
And then they could potentially be recommended for next year for the following teacher there. But what we know is that if you're in the course in sixth grade, you as the parent, you already know that and you're aware of that as well. So you've got a head start there. Now, Ms. Brown, there's a variety of other support classes we offer as well that are a little bit more specific and perhaps for students with an educational learning plan and or a 504, things like that. Can you touch on what some of those look like here?
Sure. So for the most part, all of these meet at least 2 times per cycle. There are cases where they could meet more than 2 times per cycle, which would replace an Encore. So executive functioning lab would be similar to some of those cognitive command skills that Dr. Indeglio mentioned. The writing skills lab is very targeted, direct instruction on writing skills, offered both at 7th and 8th grade. The same for math skills, could be computational, but very specific, very targeted. Functional strategies is a class designed to, work with students on coping skills, on conversational skills,
regulation strategies.
Regulation strategies, as well as very similar to social dynamics as well. Social dynamics does cover some of those same strategies.
And again, these are classes that are very, very specific to a learning plan, and parents are well in the know, well ahead of time on these types of classes. Ooh, moving on to the kids always want to know, when's lunch?
When's lunch?
Well, lunch could be one of 3 different times, depending on which lunch period you have, but each lunch lasts for 30 minutes. We do in the middle school mixed grade levels for lunches, so students will have an opportunity to not necessarily be in the exact same lunch that all of the most of the kids who are in their classes throughout the day fall in, which is a nice way to kind of be exposed to different kids, across the gamut, and meet new people here at Downingtown Middle School. So that's our lunch period, most importantly, right, Ms. Brown? Tell us about homeroom and advisory.
Yeah, so these 3 points on this screen really just kind of round out our schedule. So students have either been recommended for their cores, they've selected their encores. So to fill out their schedule, they have a homeroom period in the morning, and then they do change from that homeroom period to a first period class, and that's typically a teacher that's on their team. Like Dr. Indeglio said, they have one of 3 lunch periods, referred to as lunch 1, 2, or 3. Very creative. And then our advisory period that meets at the end of the day, we refer to our connect period. And during that period, we have a variety of activities scheduled. That could be some of our SEL assignments, that could be, or exercises, that could be
School-wide
positive behavior. It could be team time. It could be, help time, depending on how a team arranges that.
Yep, lots of different options and different things we do during Connect there. Now, important recap here. So if you weren't paying attention during the rest of this video, maybe you were watching tiny little baby animals on YouTube and entertaining yourself, or puppies as the puppy bowl is coming up, or you were distracted by things going on at home. We have an important recap slide to kind of fill you in again on what you have to remember. So First and foremost, the course selection process pretty much begins tomorrow here at Downingtown Middle School. Marsh Creek has begun their process as well, and it's going to run through Sunday, January 29th. Now, most of what's important, core-wise and everything will be loaded in. Students will make their selections, and then we review everything over time. So if you make a mistake, don't worry. Just contact your school counselor, and we can get anything you might have worried about fixed up for you. What else, Ms. Brown?
Well, to add to that, at the end of this period, the counselors will be meeting one-on-one with at least the seventh graders, the current seventh graders, to we call it course verification. So they will sit down with the counselor and review everything. So if something was omitted, if something, if your child did not select enough encores, that'll be covered during that time. But you can always ask questions of your counselor beyond that. So to review, rising eighth graders will select 1 world language and 4 encore classes. And that is beyond, that was a bell. And those 4 encore classes are beyond the health and PE that have already been, added on our end. We've already added that to student schedules. And then rising seventh graders will select 4 encore classes, and that will include the World Expeditions class, because if you recall, they do have an option of the French, German, or Spanish. You should try to choose, an encore class from at least those 3 different special areas. So we named math, we named the tech ed, FCS is FCS. There's no choices in that.
Art.
And art, yep. And music is also a choice, an area.
We recommend that you select an alternate, which is explained in the directions for all of this. And then when you pick an alternate class, you just code it with the drop-down menu of an A, which stands for alternate.
And what do we use that for?
Well, since we can't absolutely guarantee every student gets the class they requested, the encore class they requested, we go in order. So if they really, really wanted to take family consumer science, but it didn't fit, and we know their alternate was studio art, let's say, the scheduling system will default to studio art as the next choice. So we try to get the kids some of their choices there, which also brings up a great point in that there are no guarantees with the selected choice encores, but we do our best to make sure you're going to get exposure to all of them. Does that wrap up our entire presentation, Ms. Brown?
I think so.
Wow. Well, this has been a fun evening sitting down and chatting with everybody. You're going to get a chance to meet us in person. Again, this is only scratching the surface. We're talking about course scheduling tonight. You are going to learn all about the amazing things that happen here at Downingtown Middle School. Throughout the course of this year, you're going to meet Mr. Jenkins, who will be the 7th grade principal. He's also the athletic director, and you're going to have volumes.
It's new for 7th graders.
Yeah,
like sports
is going to be exciting. Tons of clubs here. So many awesome things that you don't have to worry about right now. What do you need to be aware of? Well, that previous slide, if you ever want to just rewind and go back to that previous slide a little bit. And then these key important dates. So in mid-August, Infinite Campus will open up and provide an update when the date gets close. That'll be your schedule that gets released. And then we offer a couple different activities, transition for 6 to 7. So 6th graders will have a chance to sign up for some transition camps that take place during the summertime. You'll get to walk through the building, get to know some different faces here in the building, and do some team building activities. That'll be in the summertime. And again, we'll be sending tons of information home. You'll know these are coming. And in late August, after the schedules get released, we have times available. You can come in, walk through the building, find your classes, figure out where you're headed and what's going on.
I think that's it.
All right. Well,
yeah, we're looking forward to all that.
And remember, Downingtown Middle School, home of the Lancers, you're going to love it here.